Hello and welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I'm your host, Nerdman, and I'm living in the dark ages, clearly. I'm a little bit late because I'm feeling ill, but me and Jaded were having a conversation offline about Dungeons and Dragons, the new movie. And Jaded said, why not just record it?
Not
So
the
I was
actors
like,
recorded.
all right, fine. This isn't going to be the most explosive because I have to be very quiet and whatever because of the time and stuff. But I think me and Jaded are in for a bit of a debate because
Uh-oh.
once again, Jaded does not like a movie that I do. And we're going to find out why. We're going to step into the mind of a sick, warped mind.
Every
And
video
really,
I make is a step into a twisted mind.
a twisted mind, the twisted mind of Jaded Fanboy. Um, so I like the movie.
Right?
I don't quite know why. Um, I don't quite know why critics are doing backflips over it.
I don't.
Like it's the next coming of Spielberg or some, you know, masterpiece or something like that. But it's a pretty damn good movie for me. And the thing I was saying I liked most about it was the use of practical effects. I haven't seen that in a while,
Right?
which is cool.
And even the effects that they had, they did well. I'm not knocking the practical and the effects of the movie. It's just oh hey K Dot. Okay, look, I am a lifelong I have been a lifelong D&D fanboy. I mean, I have been playing Dungeons and Dragons longer than the actors in this movie have been alive. Okay, so it's like, and this. Okay, you know what? There was a car commercial a few like a 2 years back, I think, that made a live action version of the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. It was a car commercial. That commercial was more of a D&D movie than this was, and I hated the animated show
Why did you hate the animated show? The animated show was
because it
really
wasn't
good.
really Dungeons and Dragons. It was a bunch of teenagers. One was like at the time that show came out, there was no such thing as an acrobat. There was no such thing as an archer. These were classes that didn't even exist, and the dungeon master was kind of guiding them on these moral little stories, and it was like, that's not Dungeons and Dragons. That's a safe fate.
I
That's a
see. But here's the thing about it, right? Like, I'm just judging it as a movie. I don't know the Dungeons and Dragons kind of lore. I'm
no.
just,
Again, I'm not even.
I did watch the show when I was a kid, but I've
Oh, right,
all but pretty much forgotten everything that happened. I just remember I used to like it a lot.
right.
Um, but I'll say this: look, um, it has a lot of charm to it. I specifically do really like the cast, and I really like the humor of the whole
That was
thing.
the other thing. It was
But
why
it
there was
was
just so much unnecessary humor. I'm watching the movie. I'm watching the movie, and I go, if I was the dungeon master in this, they'd all be dead by the first act. They'd all be dead.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
The
This is
paladin
what I
was
mean.
good.
Look,
The actor who
so
played the
I put some
paladin.
categories here under which I wanted to discuss it. The film. I'm gonna start though by just discussing the cast, the score, the cinematography, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Um, and then I'll go into what I wanted to discuss in general about like the film. So which is the practical effects, some other things, and certain things about critics, hypocrisy, but I'm calling them influencers because I don't think they're critics. um who have given this like a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. um so I'll discuss the cast first, right? So for me, everyone did really well. My
Yeah,
particular
overall.
standouts for the movie were Chris Pine. I did like Michelle Rodriguez. Just to give you a brief rundown of the story, Chris Pine is an on-the-run thief with Michelle Rodriguez character Holger. They basically got set up by a friend of theirs who was part of their band of thieves, and they were on a final mission. This was when Chris Pine wanted to give up so that he could spend time with his daughter, Chloe. And on this final mission, and this isn't really a spoiler, it's kind of given away somewhat in the trailer,
Yeah.
but Hugh Grant ends up, who plays Forge Fitzwilliam, ends up betraying them essentially, with this red demon,
No,
or
no,
red witch,
The Red Wizards.
the red wizard. Do you know who played her? Because I can't
No, I
make
don't know
out. Is
the
it
actress.
Daisy
I
Head?
don't know the actress. What? Who?
Daisy Head, because you can see it there, right? Can you see the pictures of all the
Yeah, yeah.
actors? I believe it's Daisy Head who ends up playing her, right? Or who played her.
Oh, okay. I didn't really recognize many. I only recognized like two of the actors.
Yeah. But in any case, so he gets betrayed by Hugh Grant's character and Daisy Head, the Red Wizard. And that essentially sets off the story where he breaks out of prison and is trying to get,
Breaks out of prison.
he's trying to get his daughter back. Essentially, this sets off the whole story. Um, the first thing, I absolutely, did really love the presence of Chris Pine in this film. I think he is an actor who really knows how to pick franchises, and I don't know why he's been so unlucky outside of Wonder Woman that a lot of his franchises that he's done really well choosing end up somehow, even Wonder Woman, actually, with Wonder Woman 1984, end up somehow not propelling him to the stardom that he deserves, because I think he's a great actor, he's a great comedic actor, and he's a great movie star. That's a combination that you rarely get, and I really love that he chooses these characters. I think he's attracted to very much these kind of characters that aren't the typical kind of hero. In Wonder Woman, he's like essentially, he's got no powers. He's just got a lot of gumption, and he's like fighting behind Wonder Woman, and he's struggling to keep up with her.
Right.
In this one, in Star Trek, he plays, obviously, Kirk, who's again, he's not really as badass, in terms of his fighting skills and stuff like that as Spock, but he's just like trying to keep up as well. And in this one, he even again plays the kind of comedic character, kind of in the vein of Big Trouble in Little China, where
He
he
is
really,
useless. Okay, no. He even admits it because it's even a scene in the trailer where the druid goes, "What do you do? I make plans, and if they fail, I make more plans." Oh, so you make plans that fail? Yes, that's all he does. That's all he does.
right, exactly, and that's a fun character because we're not used to that. Usually the main character, the main hero, is always some badass who can do
So when
everything,
like,
and
oh, I get it. So
you
when like
know
little trouble for little
whatever. But this
China,
guy is
he's not the hero.
again,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So I
I get
like
it.
that, and I like that he chooses those roles. It's a little bit different than the Hollywood actor is. The big Hollywood actor is usually. that it usually takes. So
Right.
I enjoyed Chris Pine. I think he anchored the movie really well. And yeah, the rest of the cast were really fun. I mean, there's nothing like. I mean, I guess a standout would be Justice Smith as the
Yes.
kind of he's just not a very good wizard essentially, at first, but as it goes
Oh,
on,
no, I'm
he
sorry.
improves.
Not Justin Smith for me. It was the Paladin. Who's the Paladin?
Yeah.
Rigo Jean Page?
Yeah, exactly. Regis John Page as well does his thing
He
in this
was
movie. I'm not
he
too
was good for
familiar
me.
with him from Bridgerton, but I
Okay.
think he really does his stuff in this movie. Michelle Rodriguez again uh, is great in this movie. My favorite character happened to actually be played by, I believe it's Laura Priabilla, who plays a kind of oh no, Sophia Lillis, who plays Doric, who's this character who
The Druid.
who has the power to morph into different animals,
Yeah, she's
and
the
she's
Tiefling
got
Druid.
the best action set pieces in the whole
Yeah, but
film.
not as her. But not as her.
Not as her. No, I'm not
As
talking
a
about her
CGI,
acting. I'm not
a
talking
CGI
necessarily about her
creature.
performance, but I think the directors who were actually the directors of a really great comedy, Game Night.
Oh,
Um,
wasn't
uh,
that a horror?
no, no, no. It was a comedy film.
I
I'm
think.
trying to look up their names now, but basically, they directed Game Night, which is a really fun comedy. I think a couple of years ago. I didn't pick them as like people who'll be doing big action
Mm.
blockbusters, but basically, I'd say the directing of this was really good, and I think very very charming. You know, for the most part. And what really stuck out for me was like some quite creative action set pieces in this movie. Um, so what do you like? Let me go on I'll finish with just this. Look, all in all, I do think the movie was very good. I thought the score was kind of unmemorable, so that
Mm.
wasn't specifically something that brought me into it too much. Um, I think the comedy for the most part was on point, but I think you've seen a lot of the best comedy bits in the trailer. Um, and I think where it really shines is the cinematography and the visuals and the acting. So the visuals and the acting, one thing I really love, was, I mean, people still use practical effects in these big budget movies when it comes to like cars flipping over or trucks getting crushed and stuff like this, but these guys are actually using puppets, and rather than do big CGI monsters, they were doing using actual puppets instead. And I thought that was really great to see. I haven't seen that in a long time, and it kind of brought you back to those 80s styles of movies like Labyrinth and that kind of stuff. That was the thing that I specifically enjoyed much, and I'm sure was just catnip to these modern day critics or influencers who want to pretend, that they're so, what do you call it, like so above the
You
rest
know what
of
they that they know what they're
cinematography and the
talking
film.
about.
Yeah. So these are the things that really stood out for me in the movie. So I'm gonna go after Jaded gives his impressions of the movie. I'm gonna go into some of the things that I have a problem with, which is things that critics are saying that I have a problem with, and uh, yeah, because I'm curious why this movie is getting lauded in the
Yeah,
way it
I
is
have no
by
clue.
critics. And if
What's
it's
the
not
Rotten
part of
Tomatoes score?
an agenda against superhero movies, essentially. You know, it's very, very weird that this movie, which is pretty much exactly, it's like a much better MCU movie.
Holy crap! 91% and 94. You people are insane.
Yeah.
You're insane.
So
You're insane.
So
91 and 94.
Jaded, tell me your impressions. Why did you hate this movie?
I went into this movie wanting to like it because I am a D&D fanboy, so I wanted a good movie. This was
Spoilers, guys, by the way.
Oh yes, I'll try not to do spoilers, but it didn't feel like it was a average fantasy movie with a very I don't even know what adjective to use for the plot, but it was going, oh, let's just insert places and names that are familiar with, you know, the Forgotten Realms or certain, you know, various aspects of the D&D lore, and we'll call it a D&D movie. And it was like one of my favorite parts was when they get this is for those people who have a little bit of understanding of D&D, is when they go to the paladin. My favorite. Okay, hold on, before we get to that. There's this running gag in a section of the movie where they keep going to the wizard and go, why don't you just use magic? Use your magic to solve this. Use your magic to solve this. And the wizard goes, well, you can't use magic to solve everything because there's limitations. Then the movie goes on and actually uses magic to solve all the goddamn problems. Because they just constantly keep getting these magic, and like the walking stick just happens to be a teleporter staff of that creates portals, and it's like, blow me, movie. It was just ridiculous. But they go to the paladin to get the magic helm.
They don't solve everything through
magic. Solved all their problems with magic. And the ending was solved by magic.
Can we just make a distinction? When you say solved with magic, do you mean that magic was involved in the solution?
The magic item. It was all magic items.
That it was totally magic because it was plans and strategies that they used.
No, because it's like, how do we get past the door? Situation. How do we get past the door? Well, we got to get this magic helm. And then so we got to get this magic helm. We get to a bridge. Oh no, the bridge is collapsed. How do we get past the bridge to get to the helm? Oh, don't worry. The warrior, the barbarian character just happened to have a staff that allows for portals to be able to cross the bridge to be able to get the helm. How do we get into the wall? We're gonna use it. We're gonna use the Deus Ex Machina staff that allows us to get into so everything that's solved is because of the magic items they have.
All right, so Jaded, you would have preferred if they didn't use magic
to solve all the problems? Yes, I would have preferred that.
But they didn't use magic necessarily to resolve the last problem.
Yes, they did, because after the wizard attunes himself to the helm, suddenly he's on par with the red wizard, and he's using Bigby's hands, like you know those two giant hands, right? Mm. He went from being an incompetent wizard whose major magical ability was putting a flame on his finger and using some telekinesis to rob his crowd. And he keeps going, oh, I'm no good. I'm not a good wizard. I'm not a good wizard. Then at the end of the movie, he attunes himself to the helm, and suddenly he's like a 20th level mage.
You just reminded me of something else I love about this movie, by the way. This was one thing I really genuinely liked about this movie. the way they presented magic and this girl transforming into these different animals and how they used that in set pieces and
That
sequences
was good.
was, and I'm not going to go jaw dropping, but it was really good. And it was kind of like,
And Nerdman.
it reminded me of Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange 2. And what I
Okay.
felt was missing from that, it's like, get creative. This is magic. If you're going to use magic, let's get creative with how it looks,
Yeah,
how it appears. And this Red Witch, I loved her in this movie. What a great villain. Like
she was.
the Red Wizard,
The
like
plan was
the
good.
the
Her
the the,
plan was great.
the way her magic was visualized, and also hats off to the actress as well. She was a really good actress, but the way her magic was visualized was not like in it was. They really went out and thought about it and were really creative in shaping kind of images that seemed tangible and real, but
Right.
definitely were magic. And you were scared as shit, for certain people during certain scenes when she was going after them. You know,
Oh, there was one scene. There was one scene in the labyrinth that I just
well, wait,
literally swore at the movie. I
I'm
said,
trying to be general so that we don't spoil it.
I know
Okay,
I don't want to give spoilers, but there was
so
this
don't
one.
tell the
They meet.
labyrinth.
They
Don't.
meet a certain group of characters in the maze, and I went, "Are you kidding me? Really, really, movie? Are you gonna stoop that low?"
Mhm. Yeah, well, I like that. I think because I was wondering about that when I saw that, and I was like, is that them?
Yep, that's them.
And
And do they do
and
anything with them? Nope.
yeah, that kind of did annoy me as well. I'll say that
Like if they at
annoyed
least did
me, but
something with them, I could have
because
at least understood. But
well, I thought they were going to do something. I
yeah,
thought
so
that
did
was a
I.
crazy. I thought that was a crazy missed opportunity, but
Yeah, I figured they were gonna at least talk or say something.
no, I would want them to be part of the action. But anyway, forget about that. Let's not, because we're making it obvious. But
But
Jacob,
as for humor, as for
was
the humor,
on top of this movie
it's
from day one?
to me with the humor, it's the same complaint Nerdman has with MCU movies. Is that every 5 minutes put in something funny? Because there's this one scene where the paladin gives them the helm and then leaves and he's walking away. And the bard goes, oh, there he goes, walking in a straight line. Oh, there's a rock. Is he going to go around it? Is he going to go around it? Nope. He goes over it and it's like, you know what? You didn't have to say that. You don't have to. And when they're at the cemetery, oh my, not the cemetery, but at the field, getting all the trying to, and they're digging up
Do you
everybody.
know what spoilers are, man?
And it's like
It's not
you don't
spoiling the movie.
have to have a comedic scene. It was just like, oh my god.
That is true, but I'll say this. I think the people who are delivering the comedy in this film do it so well and so charmingly, specifically Chris Pine, a little bit Hugh Grant. I think they do
Hugh
it so
Grant, yeah,
well.
the humor with like his character
Yeah,
worked a lot for me,
yeah.
a lot better than Chris Pine's character.
I liked Hugh Grant a lot in this movie, but like
Yeah.
and he's a good looking chap, isn't he? Fucking hell. He's
I
like
don't know,
older.
man.
He's
If he
older.
was a
No,
woman, I would have. If he was a woman, he hit the wall, dude. He hit the wall. He
what do
let
you mean?
himself go.
No, but that's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking. I was like, even even letting himself go, this guy's still fucking like good looking and shit.
Well,
It was very
he had
weird.
that natural good look.
Yeah, he
And
just got like, I'm like, all right, Cookie Grant, cool, man. Leave my woman alone, bro. But
that's okay. He'll just go after a $15 hooker. He's fine. You're fine there, man. Don't worry.
yeah, I think so. But what was I gonna say? Like, so the humor for me, it wasn't hit and miss. But what I don't get is like it was exactly the type of relentless humor that you see now in comic book movies, yet this is being hailed as some savior of the blockbuster. It's like taking the Marvel formula and just put
Yeah,
it
they took
on,
the Marvel
uh,
formula and injected into a D&D movie. That's all they did.
injected it into a D&D movie with
Right.
slightly more competent comedians. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so that struck me as kind of a strange hypocrisy to the current, because comparing it to my beloved Shazam to Fury of the Gods, I'd have to say
The
Shazam
humor is
2,
on
the,
par.
the humor is completely on par.
Yeah. The
Completely
type
on
of
par.
humor, the delivery, the amount, you know.
It's exactly the same, and I dare to say that Shazam in some places is actually funnier.
Mm.
And the humor is delivered just as well. And it has just as much, of the fantasy elements as this film. I mean, obviously, this is a fantasy film completely. It's not set in the real world with magic entering into it. But a lot of the imagery and stuff like that from Shazam: Fury of the Gods is,
It's pretty much
again,
on par with
it's
what was in D&D in the D&D movie.
D&D
Yeah.
movie. So I'm a little bit baffled, really, that they've decided like to have this hate on for Shazam 2, whereas they're like, oh, this movie's just great. This movie could have been directed by the same people as Shazam 2. Like it
Yeah,
literally,
we
it
could have been the
feels
same
like
director.
it could have been the same director. That's how like similar in tone and execution both movies are. Um, so that was kind of weird. And it's like, for me, there's an agenda. There's definitely an agenda against superhero movies when I look at this movie and its reception. It's like any movie that isn't a superhero movie, oh my God, it's the new brilliant. This is not Spielberg, guys.
No.
Do you know what I mean? This does not feel like a film that takes me back to days of yore,
Right.
when I was younger, when these films were hitting on all cylinders, and they had this perfect blend of family, like that appeal to the family, the heart. I feel like one of the things that was most forced in this film was the heart of it,
Yeah.
and it didn't.
They
To
were
me,
trying they were trying to forcefully inject the relationship between Chris Pine's character and the daughter, and it was like
I
very,
didn't feel it
very
at all. I didn't feel it at all. And this movie actually, it ends up resolving itself in a very, very similar way to Shazam: Fury of the Gods.
yeah.
Almost identical in a way. And Shazam: Fury of the Gods, I'm sorry to say, I think it pulled it off better.
And I have to say, the dragon in Fury of the Gods was way better than the two dragons in this movie.
Right, exactly. So it's
Especially the second one, which was so, oh my God, it was embarrassing to watch that second dragon.
right. Exactly. Dune as well. Like Dune was like way overpraised. That movie had a lot of problems, man. Like it was boring as shit. Like I really like the imagery, and I love the director. I fucking love him. But I think he needs to stay away from blockbusters and do smaller movies like crime thrillers and all of that, because he's
Well, wait a
much
minute.
better at those than he is
Wasn't the
at
director wasn't the director of Dune the same director as Arrival?
yeah.
Yeah, see, I liked Arrival. I thought Arrival was good. It
No,
was
that's
a
what I'm saying. He needs to go back to movies like that, smaller
slow
idea
movies. Yeah,
pictures,
movies that don't require a lot
you
of
know. Because I'm like here in June, just I keep looking at the time, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, see, the thing with
because
Dune
I'm
though,
just like,
the thing that I hated about Dune is
why
he
am I
simplified
interested
it.
in this world?
That was the thing. It was so simplified. It is such a rich story with a rich background, and so much is going on. And the reason it's boring is because he simplified it so much that there was nothing left.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, so as I said, the standout for me in this in D&D, again, catnip for the influencers, as I call this is what I call the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. They're not critics, they're influencers. Only the top critics on Rotten Tomatoes are actually critics. But even they have their own agendas, clearly. But the standout for me was the use of the practical effects. That was the most different thing that this movie did. The fact that I was looking at like puppets,
Mm.
for the animal creatures in a big motion picture blockbuster of nowadays was quite something to see.
Yeah.
But the heart of this movie, the music of this movie, the comedy of this movie was, in their words, and the storyline, and
The
the plot,
storyline.
the plot were completely generic. You've seen it in 100 other
I've had
movies.
I've read.
Like I'm not trying to be weird here. I like those 100 movies, and I like the way this movie pulled off that same storyline. But it is the same fucking tired tropes and storylines that you've seen a million times before. So to say, again, Shazam: Fury of the Gods, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is like these tired storylines that we've seen over and over again. Well, I'm sorry, like this movie is,
Did
and
the
and
exact
and
same
uh,
thing.
and Scream 5, which I also liked. I really like Scream 5. Um, exact same storylines,
Oh
exact
yeah.
same tropes as previous movies. I mean, I'll give Scream a little bit of a break because at least there's a mystery at the center of it. So that
Okay.
constantly keeps you engaged, that you're like, oh, who's the killer this time? But the content of the movie, was a very, very back to basics kind of Scream fare. And, and yeah, as I said, D&D is the same. It's like there's nothing that is going to surprise or shock you outside of the
No,
use of
no. It's
practical effects, and maybe some of the action sequences are done pretty damn well.
yeah.
As I said,
When they finally get around to them.
the way that they visualize the magic and stuff like that, I thought was really, really fun, and what I would have wanted to see in something like Doctor Strange. But yeah, this this is a this is a typical action blockbuster, and I'm telling you, it does not reach the level of as I said, those 80s classics
No.
that it's trying to mimic. This isn't like any of the Spielberg ones. Uh, which one am I thinking of?
Willow?
Close Encounters or Willow. You know, um,
Like I would like I wasn't a big fan of the Willow movie, but I'll take Willow over this movie, I'll tell you that.
yeah. Of course, you weren't a big fan of the Willow movie, but anyway. um, so that's the bizarre thing to me. I'm just like, let's keep the fucking energy the same here. You are talking about two people who basically said, "Oh, Marvel movies are popular these days. Let's do that for Dungeons and Dragons."
Right. Because that's the new apparently Dungeons and Dragons is the new flavor because like honestly, if Shazam Fury of the Gods came out in 2015 or 2012, they would have praised it then, but because it's been
Yeah,
done so many times, they're going, "Oh, well, we're tired of it." But
yeah,
then Dungeons and Dragons comes out, does the exact same thing, but it's a different flavor. Oh, all of a sudden it's revolutionary. It's amazing. It's like, sorry.
yeah. And the bizarre look. This is the last thing I'll say about Shazam: Fury of the Gods. at least for this stream. But it's a good comparison. That's why I'm using
Oh,
it.
absolutely, especially with all the monsters in it.
Yeah, but the last thing I'll say about that is they seem to give the MCU all the breaks in the world when it comes to doing generic shit. And this movie clearly, Shazam Fury of the Gods was meant to come out like a year ago,
Okay.
2 years ago, but because of the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
So the script was tied in by then. By the time the pandemic was in mid-swing, this script was already tied in. So the fact that they don't give them a little bit of, leeway over that this movie was supposed to come out, a long time ago, and that's maybe why it isn't, a game changer in terms of the the plot, right? Because if you're thinking, well, I was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, you're not thinking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and all the different MCU shows that have come out, and all of that kind of stuff. You're not thinking about that. You were thinking about the landscape of comic book movies 2 years ago.
Right.
And they didn't even give them that benefit of the doubt and go, oh, well, Shazam Fury of the Gods is unfortunate that maybe it seems a little bit generic now because, of everything that happened with COVID and, but and they would have done that, given that benefit of the doubt with an MCU movie.
I know.
It's like, these are the things that kind of bother me. And it's the same, roughly speaking, with Black Adam as well. It's like this movie was supposed to come out, like probably 2021.
Okay.
2022, right? Both those movies. And they got pushed back because of what happened with COVID. And, nobody wants to like kind of give them a break on the basis of that. So I hope this movie does well because I want to see more original things in cinemas doing well. I want to see more competition for superhero movies, and hopefully that will push superhero movies to go, in terms of like improve
Quality.
in terms of their quality, because now they will
hopefully
have
their script writing as well. But hey,
and the script writing and the power. The thing that pisses me off the most a lot of the time is the power scaling. Because like these characters, when you've got characters like Doctor Strange, when you've got characters like Superman, when you've got characters like Wonder Woman, right, and they can do fucking anything, you're kind of like.
But then at the same time, but here's the thing, though, nerd man. At the same time, they'll have Flash and they neuter him because they know that he can win everything.
Yeah, exactly. You've got characters like the Flash who can run at like like stupid speeds.
Oh my god!
And it's like they conveniently can't use their power at a certain point, to solve the situation.
Oh, I know.
And you're just like, why? And I've got to tell you, I think. Like for instance, like even Shazam Fury of the Gods, right? You're just like, wait a second, you guys have super speed, dude. Don't tell me this witch is able to fucking hit you with this.
Use the damn staff on the goddesses. Get rid of their powers. Like actually do something.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I think they didn't know how to do that, to be fair.
Yeah, well,
they should have made that clear.
Ask the wizard. He's not dead anymore. And you could ask Steve.
You could have asked Steve, how do you do that? Yeah, it's true.
How do we use the staff to be able to depower them?
And they should have said you can't because you're not a god. And then that would have resolved that.
You can't because then we can't have the story we're trying to have.
Yeah, exactly. But at least that would have given some reason why they can't do it.
Yeah,
yeah,
Like speaking of Shazam: Fear of the Gods, when Billy Batson as Shazam, right, actually used she's about to she's creating that rock that big ball, and
mhm.
he goes, yeah, but does your dad have super speed? And it's like, well, why haven't you been using that before? Like when he actually used it,
I
it
guess
threw me off.
I guess what they were saying is they were kids and they don't really know how to use these skills properly. But like
Yeah,
it just
whatever. Freddie, I'm sure
it
Freddie's been
struck me as a
practicing.
little bit fanciful that, maybe the thing should have been like, like
Maybe it's because the writers.
wait.
Maybe it's
Let me
because the
finish, David.
writers are hacks. How's that?
Let,
Maybe that's the reason.
let me finish, David. If it was like Dark Side's Omega Beam, right, where it follows you around,
Yes,
that would have been much better, and that could have made for cooler action scenes where
yes.
like they're literally trying to outrun it and it's following them.
But hey,
Um, but
if Batman can outmaneuver a Nega beam, then it was
yeah. In any case, what I'm saying is, I hope that this film does do well, and John Wick as well is a wake up call. Although I've started watching John Wick, and I'm like, this movie ain't that good.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
I have to say, I've like really. I tried to start watching the new one, and I wasn't like getting into it. And then I went back to the first one because I was thinking maybe I need context. And I'm like, this isn't that good.
If you want context, don't go to the first one, because by the time you get to that, doing that would be like watching the first Fast and Furious movie and then going straight to number 10 and going, what the hell is this?
No, but for whatever you want to say about the Fast and Furious movies, which I also do not like, I don't think they're very good at all. But for whatever you want to say about them, I can go into any single one and get it. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm,
I don't need to watch like number one to
mhm.
understand two, three, four. Like I literally started the Fast and Furious at number. I just watched the one with Tony Jaa because I'm a huge Tony Jaa fan, and I was like, okay, I get this. It's
Okay.
not good,
They're
but I
all
get
they're
it.
self-contained stories. They're self-contained
Yeah,
stories.
it was like it's not very good, but I get it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Whereas John Wick, I was like, is this going over my head because I haven't seen the first ones, or is this just super fucking boring? I don't know which one.
It's a continuing story. That's the thing. All four movies ended
Uh-huh.
up becoming a continuous story.
Yeah, but I honestly, I think the guy, it's a little bit overrated. I'm gonna watch it again in full before I give my final decision. But one thing I can't stand about, like, I think Keanu Reeves is acting worse on purpose in those movies. Like, he's really bad. Like
Oh
in
yeah?
terms of like, I don't like him as an actor. I think he's a lovely person. You know, I think the only time he's really worked is in Bill and Ted and in The Matrix. And in The Matrix, it worked. His stilted
Right.
kind of acting because he was supposed to be like, whoa, what's happening? And,
Well,
like not really
it also kind of worked in Constantine as well.
in Constantine as well. And you know what? I'll give him some credit. My favorite movie of his, actually, where I think he does okay in, is Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino.
With Al Pacino, yes.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. But other than that, this is really like bottom of the barrel Keanu Reeves that I saw in the beginning scenes of this film. Now maybe he gets better throughout the film,
No, he stays the same.
but it was just like you're not even trying to act. I mean, you're not even trying to convince me you're a character in a movie. Like, it's like, I swear to God, I didn't believe a second of his dialogue in those in John Wick at all.
No.
Um, so we'll see. I mean, I'll see what I think about it once I kind of finish it. But as far as it goes, it, one of the big takeouts I have of this is just like the superhero movies. Man, you better get really good really fast because you are not coasting anymore. These guys have been fully indoctrinated by Scorsese, by Tarantino, and I kept telling you guys, you know, I again, nobody knows me, so it's not really fair that I'm saying I was telling them, but I kept telling guys on, you know, this platform, these movies are not fucking good enough.
No.
You know,
I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it for years.
And to call out DC when Marvel is MCU is way bigger a perpetrator of these average movies than DC. Even if you say all of DC's movies are average, at least they're only 10 movies.
Right.
Like they're not 20, 30 fucking average movies.
Right.
You know, like I'm sorry, like going back, I was like, because I had to revise my whole MCU listing because I'd gone easy on them because of like the crowd I was in. And I was just like, oh, you know, I'm gonna try and see the best in these movies and, you know, like give them their day or whatever. But I'm telling you, like the MCU has made 4, maybe good 8 solid movies.
Right.
And that's it. And the rest of them are pretty poor. Even I remember even seeing the Avengers and Avengers 1, and I liked it. You know, I liked it because I'm a comic book fan, right? And I was like, okay, you know, it's got the charm of like all of these characters that I've always wanted to see together coming together.
Right.
But when I looked at the movie, the plot is so fucking flimsy and basic in that movie.
Yeah.
Like the way it starts off, it's just like, and why would Loki, of all characters, be the main bad guy?
Because he was in the comic, that's why.
Yeah,
in the
but
first
then
Avengers comic, Loki is the character that brings them all together.
Okay, that's fine. But then make him formidable. He was just a fucking, you know, because we knew him from Thor 1, and we were like, I was looking at Thor 1 thinking, that can't be the main villain for all 4 of these guys, because he's trash. Like, not trash. In Thor, it worked because he's just against Thor, and he's like
because
doing whatever.
the main bad guy in the Avengers movie was the Chitauri, not really Loki.
But the Chitauri were trash. The Chitauri, every bad guy in that was just cannon fodder to make the hero look.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Right? But the problem was I never felt any kind of threat at all to these heroes. And all of Loki's plans were just laughable. And what was worse, the thing that really was like, take out every joke from that movie, and it's one of the most boring movies ever, and one of the most derivative plots. Like such a basic fucking plot.
You know what the problem is, nerd man? You're too jaded. You're too jaded. That's the problem.
And that's one of the better movies, dude. That was literally one of their better movies, was Avengers 1. You go to Captain America 1, for instance, and it's just, again, it's like this very basic, simple. It's
well,
like
the first half,
it's so
2 movies,
cynical.
Though.
It's so cynical. It's like, oh, we know that you're going to pay to see the superhero movie, so we're not even going to try and make it to capture the spirit of like the comic and to capture anything, you know, interesting about the comic, not the visual styling, not the music, not the, you know, nothing was really stand out in that movie. To be fair to Captain America, he's got the best trilogy for the rest of the movies.
Yeah.
The rest of the movies were a cut above the rest of the, you know, the rest of the Captain America movies were a cut above the rest of the MCU. And they didn't feel as generic as the MCU. But
because they actually had stories to tell in those ones.
Right. They had like something. Yeah. Like you couldn't necessarily like predict the plot of Winter Soldier like so easily. So I'll give it that credit. But as I was saying, and I'll let you respond to this, but like this comic book genre, I think for a while has been uncool to general audiences, and
Right.
people have been confusing the fact that the MCU was getting all of these high numbers
Mm.
with the idea that they had appealed to the general audience, and I don't think they had. I think there were some very rabid MCU fans that kept going and watching the movies over and over again in cinemas, but that a lot of other people were just lost. They didn't really, understand when they went to see an MCU movie. They were just like, one, it's too confusing because I have to have watched every single other thing to get this. And then two, it's not even that compelling that you feel like, oh, I want to go back to watch everything else to catch up because it's just jokes, no stakes. Every time there is anything seeming like stakes, it's undercut by some humor. And these characters, for the most part, don't even deserve to have movies. Like fucking Shang-Chi. What is that about?
Right.
If you're gonna get an Asian fucking hero, get an Asian hero that's worthy of a fucking franchise. Don't just throw something out there for fucking representation. So that was my thing. So what do you say to all that?
Well, for me, I have a different take. It was that people weren't getting into, like, even in phase it, to me, it's people jumping onto the bandwagon and going, oh, look, Marvel MCU movies are really popular. Okay, so I have to be part of the because to be part of the conversation, you have to be able to watch the MCU movies, and that's what was being pushed on social media a lot.
Hmm.
Twitter, YouTube videos. So, and I've been saying this for years. There's just way too many. 90% of the audience are fake comic book fanboys. They're not actual comic book fanboys. They're just going, oh, it's what's popular, so I'm going to be part of it.
And
And
you can see that with the way they
like,
assess these
if right
characters.
now,
The fact that
they stopped making comic book movies, 90% of the audience wouldn't care. They wouldn't care because they don't care
mm,
about they don't care about comic book characters anyway. So
mm. Yeah, I mean the fact that they're talking about like Shazam, a golden age character, Captain Marvel, as if he's some tertiary character that doesn't
yeah,
matter. It's like that goes to show how much they've read comics
they
and
don't.
know
Yeah,
about fucking
they don't.
comics. Like you think fucking Ant-Man and Black Panther are more important than fucking Captain Marvel? Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, no.
Or what's it called? I mean, fucking hell, Shazam, Captain Marvel was low key a bigger character than fucking Iron Man in the
Well, again,
comics
see, the thing
before.
though was what the thing is with Captain Marvel is that he was out of print for so long,
Yeah, it's true.
right? And by the time he came back in, like, I believe the 90s, it was a different take on the character. I mean, it was still
No,
a good take, but it wasn't the same innocence from the 40s and 50s.
no, I get that, and I get that he's been mishandled like a lot of characters at DC have been mishandled. Every character whose name isn't Batman has been mishandled in the comics up until I would say like recently, like the 2010s, where they were like, oh, actually, Flash is pretty cool, and
Yeah,
Wonder Woman's pretty cool, and Captain Marvel's actually pretty cool, and maybe we should do something with these characters and
right.
like have dedicated storylines, and actually like comic writers didn't see it as like
Like,
a
put some
a
actual effort
punishment.
into it. That's all
Yeah,
we're asking.
In the 2010s, these characters have had like a kind of renaissance,
Right.
where like people are like, oh, actually, I do want to write a Shazam story, and they're writing some good ones these days.
Right.
But yeah, for a long time he was out of the thing, but nonetheless, he's still a golden age character.
Oh
He's still
yeah,
a
he's
character that
still
had not one but two TV shows. Do you
right.
know what I mean? In one in the like 50s, I believe, and then another one in the
70s.
70s. Like this is a major fucking character that has had a
Right.
huge, that had a big enough fan base at one point to get these TV shows. He had the first ever live action
I mean, the
show
reason
made
the
about him.
reason he ended up the reason Captain Marvel ended up getting canceled was because he was beating sales of Superman comics, and DC was pissed.
Yeah, they did a
Like
copyright
DC,
claim
if
against.
it wasn't for the fact that Captain Marvel was so popular and outselling Superman comics, DC would have never sued them in the first place.
Yeah, but let's forget about that. Okay, but I'm just saying that shows you the level of the fan base, right?
No,
Like
yeah,
that they're
it's
like, oh, Captain Marvel is just like some, tertiary character, but Ant-Man, that's where it's at. Fucking, or who am I trying to, like,
the Guardians of the
all,
Galaxy.
all the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, that's where it's at, man. Like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
dude,
Well, because for them, it's the first time. Because that's the thing for a lot of the people. This is their introduction to the characters.
So it's like, to me, that speaks volumes of the kind of
Oh, of
fan base.
course. I've known
But
that for a long time.
nonetheless, um, I don't strictly put it on the MCU's fault, because these influencers on Rotten Tomatoes have been sucking their balls for fucking years. And it's like you could see the quality diminishing in these things, and you could see that, hey, these guys could tell straight up, tightly written stories about these characters, and have them be every bit as good as, like, a Spielberg movie, or like, think of directors who are in the blockbuster space who are
Right.
really respected. Inject any one of those, they could have made those films so that they didn't just attract, these supposed fake comic book fans. A lot of them, not all of them. Some of
No,
them are
not
actually
all of them, but
real, but like,
a lot.
these kind of, but like that they could actually attract also people who are genuinely into cinema, and the people who are genuinely into cinema now see superhero storytelling as incredibly childish,
I know.
and not worthy of, being put in the same light as, the great movies and great blockbusters, of, even though, which is the funny thing, is they make shitty blockbusters in Hollywood anyway. So I don't know why they think they're that much superior. But like, at least when you're talking about like 80s movies, 90s movies, like blockbusters, like Jurassic Park and stuff like that, then you can go, oh yeah, those were quality. Even Star Wars, like back
Right.
in the 70s, stuff like that, right? Those were quality. If you compare the superhero movies to modern day blockbusters, I think they fare quite comparably, to be
Right.
honest. But nonetheless, yeah, it's just like turning cinephiles, turning people who are genuinely into filmmaking and cinema against superhero movies
Well, it's also because now,
that was always folly. They should have been listening. When
but the thing is
Martin
that
Scorsese tells you your fucking films aren't films, they're joyrides, you should probably perk up and fucking listen, because that means a lot of people who are of the persuasion of Martin Scorsese and that kind of thing feel very similar. And it's not just Martin Scorsese, it's a lot of cats coming out saying this shit. I was telling you, hey, dude, even if you want the MCU to continue doing its thing, you better go out there and support like movies that are like that will show superhero movies in a different light. Because if you don't, that's what they're gonna think superhero movies are, just MCU movies. That's what they are. They're equated with MCU.
It's the fact. The thing though is that they're money makers, and that's what. Oh, everything in general, Jack's Law. Nerdman has a lot of stuff to get off of his chest. So
tell him what you think, Jaded. Yeah, tell me what you think.
I agree. I agree with Nerdman, but I just have a different basis behind the agreement. That's all. Because to me, it's like it's again. I don't want to just single out MCU movies because obviously Sony's done it and so has DC. But it's the fact that they've realized that they've gotten away with the fact that we can do less and less. And it doesn't matter as long as we've got really cool special effects and as long as we got really cool action scenes. The story is almost negligible at this point.
Right.
And
go on.
And like it's the same thing with with Avatar 2 is a great example. Avatar 2 had a nothing story. But hey, the visuals were beautiful. And it made what? I think it made almost $3 billion.
Yeah.
Because that's what the audience wants. And it's you want to be spoon-fed this. But then you get spoon-fed this. But when one movie does it, it's not acceptable. But when another like when Quantumania gives you the exact same thing that Avatar 2 did, Quantumania makes what? 50, 60 million dollars or Shazam Fury of the Gods. But when Avatar 2 does the exact same thing, it gets over $2 billion. It's like, you guys flip a coin. I don't get it.
I agree with you because like Avatar 2 had some major problems. I mean, it was way too long.
It's irrelevant. It is Avatar 2 is the first movie I have ever seen that is an actual filler movie. Doesn't matter. The water looked cool. $2 billion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I liked the animation aspect of Avatar 2, the seamlessness of that. And I was impressed, but I could have been impressed with a half an hour movie of that. Yeah. I didn't need to be there for 3 fucking hours. You know, just show me the highlights. If that's the attraction, it's the visual aspect, just show me the fucking highlights because it's like it's 3 hours. I'm looking at the time. Like, when's this fucking thing gonna resolve?
When's it gonna end? I'm waiting for the story to start. Forget when is it gonna end? I'm watching Avatar 2 and I'm going, when is the story actually gonna start?
You know, but I liked the movie. In the end of the day, I thought that it did enough different that I liked it. But again, to talk about it as if it's this instant fucking classic, like as if it compares to Terminator 2 or something like that, or Terminator 1, you know, like these kind of gritty, cool, you know, action movies that they had in the 80s and 90s.
There was a story behind it. That's the point.
No, but even beyond that, like, what you're right that there's a story behind it, and that's what separates them.
Yeah,
but even beyond that, I'm just like, stop pretending these movies are the savior of fucking cinema, because they're just as dull and relentless and
they're the same
and CGI eye candy as the thing, fucking superhero movies. I mean, look at the 65. Like, I watched the 65. I was mildly entertained by it or whatever, but and at least it didn't have the horrendous comedy that a lot of these superhero
I
movies
don't
have these
understand
days.
65. I don't understand. It was
But
just
but but again, what was it? It was just the same dumb shit that you get in superhero movies, like big special effects,
that's it. That's all you
no
wanted.
story, just whatever. I don't understand why. And to be fair, the critics didn't come out on the side of the 65, but like, it's like any movie these days that is not a
Yeah.
superhero movie, that is a big blockbuster, they want to hail as like the next fucking, do you know what I mean,
Yeah.
Indiana Jones or something. And it's like, no, mate,
Because
it's not fucking Indiana
to
Jones. It's
them,
just some dumb movie. And I don't even like Indiana Jones, but Indiana Jones kicks the shit out of fucking Avatar too.
because again,
Like,
there's an actual story to be invested in. That's the thing.
it's like, stop pretending like all of these other movies are doing something. Like, Hollywood in general is fucking bankrupt in terms
The
of
reason they're saying that,
storytelling.
Nerd man, is because they're making so much money. So they're going, oh, because they're making so much money, they're getting people back into the movie theaters. That's what's saving it.
Yeah,
But it's not saving cinema, it's saving the movie theaters.
but the superhero movies were already saving the movie theaters, so they
Right,
can't
but
say
they're not
that.
saving
They
they're not
can't be.
saving cinema.
What do you mean saving cinema?
Like because they're not great movies. You know what I mean? They're not Serpico. They're
I
not
thought,
Godfathers. They're not great movies that are
right.
going to be lauded in
Remember,
time. It's
yeah,
like,
no,
oh, look, people are going to the movie theaters to see these. I don't even want to call them popcorn movies, but so because there are a lot of people going to the movie theaters to see these movies, it's like they're instead of saying, because the critics can't say, oh, they're saving the movie theaters, because then that doesn't sound as good, but they go, oh, it's saving cinema. It's not saving cinema.
yeah, and no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, for instance, Top Gun was never a good fucking film in
Oh
the first
god.
place. Top Gun is an overrated movie in the first place. But
How Top Gun 2,
I, I,
how Top
I
Gun, that
have not,
second movie, made
I,
so
I
much
have
money.
not seen Top Gun 2 yet, right? But for Spielberg to come in and say, "Oh, Top Gun 2 saved cinema,"
Yeah,
I'm
he's an
like,
idiot.
"Wait, what are you talking about? Like, it saved the movie theaters because it made so much money?"
Yeah,
It's like, what? That's a direct fucking hit against superhero movies. Because
yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't like Spider-Man Far From Home, or whatever it's called. Is it Far From Home or No Way Home or
Last
whatever?
one.
I don't like that movie.
No, I
But
didn't like that one.
that movie made $3 billion fucking dollars. So surely that saved cinema, didn't it?
That
Didn't that
again, it
then,
doesn't save cinema, it saves movie theaters. That's all it does.
yeah, so it saved movie theaters. So why didn't you go Spielberg and congratulate the director of fucking Spider-Man No Way Home?
Right.
Right? I don't understand. Is it because like superhero movies are beneath you, the great filmmaking? And again, I'm not I'm not completely against what he's saying. But just come out and say it then, like, don't try and be like shady about it and be like,
Don't because when you do that, it's just arbitrary.
yeah, like, oh, Top Gun did it, but Spider-Man No Way Home
Way
didn't.
Home did.
Or Avatar saved cinemas, but No Way Home didn't. That's
Right.
bullshit.
I don't.
Superhero movies have been keeping the theater going for fucking years now. And now all of a sudden it's like super cool to like shit on them and try and
I'm
fucking
ahead of my time. I'm ahead of my time, nerd
torpedo,
man. I've been shitting on these for years.
yeah, and torpedo franchises and directors and actors and all the crew and people and CGI people who made these movies. You're just gonna like fucking lie about their movies. I mean, I'm sorry, Quantum Mania, for everything I say about it, it's not a fucking. It's not like Eternals. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
Right.
It's not like fucking. Green Lantern, or I'm trying to think of like the worst, like Batman and Robin or something like that. It's not one of those movies. It's a perfectly fine movie that you can
Right.
go watch, kind of, roughly speaking, enjoy. Some of the comedy doesn't work, I'll grant you that.
Right.
But that's been going on for a long time with the MCU.
But it's got. But the thing is that now.
But yeah, let's not all of a sudden like pile on to, and it's the same with Black Adam. Perfectly fine movie. It's enjoyable. You can sit there, watch it, like with your brain switched off, like you do with most of these fucking movies. Like if you could enjoy fucking Infinity War with your,
You see, that's
because
the thing.
you
Hold on.
entirely needed to switch off a whole
But yet,
two hemispheres of your brain to sit
but
through
here's the
Infinity
thing.
War and enjoy it.
Hold on. But
So
here's
I'm
the thing.
sure you can do that with Black Adam.
You can't. You can't. Here's the thing, though. Here's the reason why you can't is because people have now gotten used to the type of movie that was Black Adam would have been more workable in 2010, 2011, 2012. It's just that now everybody's going, we're used to that. We want the next big spectacle. We want the next big over the top action, amazing stuff. Because that's all they're
But
going.
the action was
That's all we're going to comic book movies for now.
action was incredible in Black Adam.
But again,
I'm
it
not
was
lying. The
but it was
action in
standard. It was standard.
the action in Black Adam. Sorry, I can't shout. The action in Black Adam was better than every superhero movie that basically doesn't have Zack Snyder's name on the fucking thing.
It doesn't have Zack Snyder's name.
I'm trying to think of any other guy. The only other guy I'll say that does action comparable to Zack Snyder's like action set pieces is probably the guy who did X-Men First Class. And I'm not even talking about X-Men First Class. I'm talking about his other movies, The Kingsman and and Kick-Ass.
Right.
Like the MCU action is good, but it could be directed by the same person every single film.
But that's not what the fans are looking for anymore. The fans are going to comic book movies for the spectacle and the special effects and the action and the fight scenes.
Oh, and let me throw in Winter Soldier there. Winter Soldier was also very good, but Winter Soldier was much more grounded characters. It wasn't like big, powerful Superman style characters.
Right.
So again, I can't think of anyone other than Zack Snyder who's taken on, those big, like Superman and whatever, and been able to display their powers at the same level as Black Adam. I thought it was fucking my jaw was dropping to the ground when I saw Black Adam versus Hawkman. I was like, holy shit, he made Hawkman cool. And I've never liked Hawkman. Hawkwoman, I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, what are their powers again? They're Thanagarians. They have nth metal. Nth metal do anything? I've never got at them before until I watched that movie, and I was like, holy shit, Hawkman's a fucking badass. Like, I note that Hawkman gave fucking Black Adam a better fight than fucking Wonder Woman did Superman. Thank you again, Zack Snyder. It's ridiculous, but anyway. So yeah, like I think Black Adam.
We started off with the Dungeons and Dragons movie, but Nerdman has a lot of stuff to get off of his chest, so we kind of went all over the place.
Yeah, but again, Black Adam has some very unique elements to it that is not just ubiquitous amongst all superhero movies. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying the story was very good. The story was very basic, but it was enough. It was enough that the critics didn't have to absolutely fucking shit on it.
No, well, again, I don't even when they praise a movie, they can praise a movie. I don't take their opinion seriously. They can shit on a movie. I don't take their opinion seriously. And I think people have been. I think people for the last couple of years have known that Rotten Tomatoes and these critics have absolutely no value anyway. They only use Rotten Tomatoes scores to act whenever it benefits their narrative. It's like they go, "Oh, I like this movie," and Rotten Tomatoes hated it, so Rotten Tomatoes sucks. But then they'll go, "Oh, I hated this movie, and Rotten Tomatoes hated it too. Oh, see, everybody, see how bad this movie is." It's like, no. You don't get to use them whenever it just meets your narrative. Either they always suck or they're always acceptable. But that's social media. They're hypocritical bullshit artists, and they don't
Mm,
care that they're hypocritical bullshit artists.
no, exactly, and again, I want to just be able to go, hey, I love D&D. It's a fun movie. Maybe I'll throw it on one Christmas, again, and that's about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be able to just say that. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to be, the best movie fucking every time. I think these guys are doing a really good job for their second movie, or not their second movie, the next movie after Game Night, which was much better than this movie. I'll tell you that Game Night was a much better movie than this movie, but nonetheless, like without going into comparison, but they did enough in this movie where I'm like, I'm excited to see these guys do different films. I hope they don't just stick to Dungeons and Dragons. I hope they do some other stuff, go back to comedy again, some simple comedies, then do another blockbuster. They're exciting people to watch in this space. But this is not, as I said, don't try and overvalue this movie just to fuck up superhero movies. That's not fair. It's not fair on the cast, the crew, the people who go into, like, say whatever you want to say about The Rock. Say whatever you want to say about what's his name, Pony Smasher, the director of Shazam. Say whatever you want to say about the Ant-Man directors. I do think they went in with good faith to make entertaining movies for the fans, and specifically with Shazam. I think Warner Brothers took a huge risk on that because it didn't even perform. It made its money back, but it wasn't like a huge smash hit. They did that partially because they wanted to, like, do something else apart from fucking Batman.
The thing
Which
is,
which
though,
which is what DC fans have been telling them for years, and now we're punishing them for it.
again, it's you're putting your faith in the hands of people that are fickle and have no, not just consistency. They don't even have any rules to follow.
So okay, but Nerdman, you will never get the best movie you can if you are okay with crap. Well, look, I don't. This is the thing. I'm not okay with crap. I want superhero movies to aspire to be as good as. I want all of them to aspire to be as good as The Dark Knight, or to be as good as Superman one, or as revolutionary as Superman one, um, or
Blade.
take things to a next visual level like Avatar has. I want them to do all of those things. However, one, being a writer myself, I know just in terms of just that bit, just the writing part, I know how hard it is um to tell all the story you want to tell within a 2 hour period, right? So I know that that's the first thing. So I do legitimately like I root for the filmmaker to be able to do those stories and tell those stories because I know that you can end up with like 90 pages on just the first act if you're not careful,
Nah,
and
that's what
and
editing
you
is
and
for.
and you have to like you have to rip out like so much stuff that you love just to get to that 2 hour mark,
Right.
and you have to take out so much story to get to that 2 hour mark. So I give people a little bit of a break on that. But the second and more important thing to answer your question about being, okay with crap is like, I don't understand why people are okay with crap here, but then they're not okay with crap there. Just be fucking keep the energy the same. If you're okay with crap in the MCU, then be okay with crap in DC. If you're okay with crap in Hollywood blockbusters in general, like the most of the blockbusters that have come out over the last few years, if you're okay with that crap, then be okay with superhero crap blockbusters. You know what I'm saying? But if you just don't,
But you're asking you're asking people.
if you don't like bad storytelling, which you see in superhero movies and you see in Hollywood movies in general, then fucking lambast the whole thing.
But they're not
So that's
legitimate.
what I'm saying.
But they're you're asking people who don't give a damn to actually give a damn, and they don't. So you're never gonna get that.
Hmm.
You know what I
Okay, but
mean?
it's kids' movies, not kids making them. I
Yes,
don't
they are.
understand.
Yes, they are. The script writing is written by a fifth grader. Okay, Jack
I don't
Straw.
think so. I think it's very. I think it's tough to write a script. It's tough to like. It's people want to go on shit on Game of Thrones season 8 and whatever, and it was bad. I'm not gonna lie. I think season 7 was already like pretty terrible. But think about writing
I have,
fucking
and it's not.
Game
It's
of Thrones. It's tough to write an episode of fucking
no.
Game of
It's tough.
Thrones. Is
It's tough to
fucking
edit
tough.
yourself. No, it's tough to edit yourself. But you stick with a story and you keep to the plot and you take because you can
Yeah,
when you're
but
writing something.
jaded. The fan base annihilate these people. Not just say, "Oh, you did a bad job. Do better next time. Here's our
Mhm.
critiques of how you can do better next time." They, it's as if somebody took
And
their
their
wife, or
opinions.
as if somebody killed their children or
I
something, or
know.
someone
It's
killed
like
their wife. It's like, leave these fucking guys alone. Try writing your own fucking script first. See how fucking difficult it is. See how time consuming it is.
I
You
understand,
know,
but
and then when you see how that fucking is, that experience is, then come back and criticize these fucking guys. You know what I'm saying? Making a bad
they're empty.
movie,
But
making
they're
a
just
bad movie is not
melodramatic.
does not make you fucking Hitler.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I'm
understand
saying?
that, third man. But you're talking about people that go. You're talking about people that saw. I remember. I remember when Indiana Jones, the Crystal Skull, came out. People were going, "Oh, it ruined my childhood," and it's like, shut up. You're lying. You're lying because Jaded is it written by the fifth grader or for them? It's no. It's written. It is written with a fifth grade level mentality. It is written. It is written for an audience that has a fifth grade level mentality, and the writing is the writing is sophomoric at best. It is sophomoric at best because you cannot have Winter Soldier. You cannot have Winter Soldier where they put effort into actually trying to And jaded as the old man you are, do you see when the ones that did the writing did not care and when they did care about the reader? No, because yes, phase one, they cared about the character and they cared about the reader and they cared about the stories. And then
Who?
they've been
You're talking
coasting
about
off of they've been coasting off of
phase one
Infinity
of
War and Endgame.
Marvel. Phase one of Marvel was
They tried. They
incredibly
were at least
cynical.
trying to make it.
No, they weren't.
Yes, they were.
Those movies were awful. I don't know what people are talking about. Those movies were worse than probably phase three.
Phase
Like,
three.
wait,
Yeah,
let me think.
hold on.
Let me think. Phase one and two
Phase
movies.
one.
So Captain America was basic. It was
No,
mid.
the first half.
It was fucking mid.
No, the first half was the origin story, and it was the second half that was garbage. Because the second half, they go, oh crap, we have to forcefully inject the Red Skull because we need a supervillain, but they didn't have a story for it. The first half was all about
They
the
made
progression.
Red Skull one of the greatest comic book villains of all
And they
time
ruined it in
into
that movie.
complete fucking trash.
It was trash in that movie. So the
And
second
it
half
was
of Captain America wasn't a very good movie, but the first half was well done. It got you invested in Steve Rogers. It got you invested in the character. It got you invested in the progression. It got you invested in his motivation and what he's
I
doing.
think you're confusing something. No, Chris Evans got you invested in Captain America. Chris Evans.
No, because
Chris Evans was really good in the role.
Hold on.
And that's why you invested. The writing
no, because
was very little to do with it. The
didn't
writing
know
was
because
just
here's the
it
thing.
was basic. It was just
Hold on,
basic
Nerd
story.
Man. Here's the thing with Chris Evans, because with Captain America, for the first hour of the movie, all I kept seeing is, why is the Human Torch Captain America? I could not get over the fact of all the people they picked for Captain America, you picked the Human Torch. I could not unsee the Human Torch for the first half hour of this movie. We all see it, but there is a nerd and
sorry.
We all see it, but they're in a nerd ants that keep telling us why we have to. I don't even know what that means, Jackson.
I don't know. I don't know what that means either. But like going back to your point, like phase one, I don't know why people like so Iron Man 1 was the best.
They tried to be movies. They didn't try to be spectacles. Because with phase one, they tried to be movies, not roller coaster rides.
That is bullshit, bro.
No, I'm sorry. No, I will fight that.
They were like toy commercials.
No.
Those fucking first movies. Iron Man 1. Okay, so the jokes were good because they were delivered by.
You got the progression of the entire character.
They were delivered by Downey Jr. They were good. Okay. And I'll give it this.
Well, let's see. You had Chris Evans and Captain America. You had Robert Downey Jr. You had Ed Norton. You had these great actors portraying these great characters.
But no, the Hulk was another very basic mid movie.
It's a super. Of course, it's basic.
No, they could have made the story. The Dark Knight had just come out. They could have made the storylines a little bit more intriguing, a little bit more like up and down. They could have had great villains. They didn't have any of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
None of those villains were like all-time great.
If we're gonna talk about the villains, Obadiah Stane and Captain and
he was a fucking
Iron
Stane,
Man. I agree with that.
He was a fucking Stane, all right.
I agree. I agree that they did a bad job with Obadiah Stane, but I'm saying they tried to be a movie. They tried to be a story. They're not. After phase one, they didn't bother.
They sacrificed everything all of the story, all of the stakes, everything in those movies, just so
There were stakes in
because they knew they were getting to Avengers. Nobody died. Nobody, at no point did you feel that the hero was truly in danger. There were these world-ending fucking
But you don't
stakes.
have to have high stakes. Okay, you don't have to have high stakes for a movie to have high stakes. You have to be invested. You can have a movie. Take John Wick. Take the John Wick movie. If all of that movie was about John Wick getting his puppy back, that's all you're going. Oh, you're invested in John Wick wanting to get the puppy back. That has more stakes than saving half the universe because you don't care about half the universe. The stakes aren't what's important. It's being invested.
No, I'm not
Yes.
saying that. I'm not saying like you're misconstruing my argument or you're
Oh, sorry.
misrepresenting my argument. I'm not. I'm saying the total accumulation of everything, like the fact that it had no stakes, the fact that the films really didn't have any kind of specific personality of their own, the fact
I think
that
they did.
they,
I
they,
see them as
they really didn't. It was just like a mismatch of like poor comedy for the most part, and very, very basic storylines that it's just like, oh, don't worry because we're gonna get to the Avengers, right? No, you don't have
yeah,
to
but
worry
the
about the fact that
audience didn't know
like
that though, Jurgen. The audience did.
Thor was garbage.
It was very
Fucking
simplistic,
the
yeah, but
fucking Shazam Fury of the Gods makes Thor 1 look like, like it will Thor 1 makes Shazam Fury of the Gods look like fucking Shakespeare in comparison.
oh, it's
Like
not okay.
the
Please
the
come
the
on.
the villains.
Shazam Fury of the Gods was just as basic and as simplistic as all of the other
No,
movies.
no,
It
it was
was
not.
simplistic. You had two villains come in out of nowhere and then go, we want to destroy their plan. Their plan was one of the sisters decides I'm going to be an idiot and I'm going to sacrifice actually rebuilding my realm
Very
so
wrong,
I
yeah.
can punish the earth. Because the second half of the movie goes, because here's the thing about Shazam Fury of the Gods. The first half of the movie, the conflict was going after the Shazam family. And then in the second half of the movie, it's like, yeah, we're getting an entirely new conflict. Now it's about stopping the Tree of Life. It's like, I'm sorry, as much as you enjoyed Shazam Fury of the Gods, you have bias and you are letting it get away with stuff that you are not letting MCU movies get away with.
I'm
I don't
gonna.
have bias. I trash all movies equally.
Okay, but I have bias. I'm not going to deny I have
Right.
bias, but what I'm talking about is actually looking at those first few films, i.e., Thor 1, Iron Man 1, Captain America 1,
Right.
and just saying, looking at the totality of everything that makes up a movie, the score, the
Right.
cinematography, the plot, the acting is the
They're
best in it.
average. They're average. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
They're all really like painfully average movies.
Right.
They don't even try and have a directorial,
No,
personality
absolutely. I
to
agree
them
with
at
that.
all. And God bless them, they did have like good actors, like Edward Norton and Robert Downey Jr., who injected a hell of a lot, and even Chris Evans, who injected a hell of a lot of charisma
Right.
into to the leads,
Into the
and
character.
that helped. But the stories
Obviously,
were
but that's what makes
fucking
it good is that the actors are
the
putting
stories
effort
were
into it.
basic. The stories were basic, and that's
Well,
why
of
I'm
course
like,
they're basic.
when you're shitting on something like Black Widow, which actually did have something of a little bit more intrigue to it, and definitely to cinematography looked beautiful.
Okay.
You know, it had an edge to it. You know, all of these kind of things that you know, I look for in a movie, where I look for it to have a distinct personality of its
Right.
own. You know, and they shit on the MCU fans shit on that movie,
Because
and I don't
their
get it.
opinions are irrelevant, Nerd Man. Their opinions are irrelevant because they don't because you're going, oh look, Thor: Love and Thunder was good, but the Suicide Squad movie sucked, and it's like, I'm sorry, you don't get to say that and expect me and you don't get to
And
say that
and
and expect to have any level of legitimacy. I'm sorry.
Black Widow itself had that, like, it was one of the only MCU movies apart from Winter Soldier that I saw the action in it, and I was like, oh, that was actually directed by the director. That
Right,
wasn't that wasn't directed by, like, the Marvel action team.
right.
You know, where you could take one action scene from one movie, place it in a completely different movie, and
It would
it would
still fit.
seem like it would still fit. It was like there was an actual distinct action style in that movie. You know, so again, I'm, who am I? I'm just some crazy old fuck, I guess now. But I don't see anything special in those first MCU movies at all. I think they're highly fucking overrated. I think there's a nostalgia going on because people were younger then and they were just happy to see superhero movies in
Well,
the
yeah, I
cinemas.
mean, there was that.
But
There's that as well.
I personally expected more. And then what made it even worse was then the DC movies started coming out, and they were just as had, an equal amount of flaws and,
Right.
whatever, as the
Well, a lot of
MCU
people did
movies.
love. A lot
And
of people love the Nolan
they fucking shit on them, and it was like, wait,
because they don't have
and then
any.
and then they use this thing like, oh, like every superhero movie doesn't have to be dark and gritty. Well, every superhero movie doesn't have to be light fluff
But that's what they think
that
it's
you
supposed
forget
to
as soon
be.
as you
But Nerd Man,
leave the
that's what
cinema.
they think it's supposed to be
Well,
because they don't know any different. They don't know
no,
any.
that's what they thought it was, because it appealed to their little 5-year-old kid who was
Right.
pissing their pants next to them.
I
you know.
understand
And
that.
now those 5-year-old kids have got older and are jaded and have pimples, and girls don't like them. And and now they hate these movies, and it's like, dude, you were the one who made them popular. You were the
I
one who,
know.
you
So
were the
like
you were the ones who were saying, oh, let's have all superhero movies be like the fucking MCU movies, because
and then when they are,
dark and gritty is pretentious, and
I know.
like, it's like, fuck off.
I
And
know.
you were the one. I was advocating, hey, how about this? How about you have movies like the MCU movies? That's fine. But you also have movies that appeal to other types of audiences as well, like V for Vendetta or Watchmen, or or movies that don't have to be in an interconnected universe, where you can just
because
enjoy the actual fucking movie right in front of you,
because they didn't grow
rather
up
than it have to be setting up some fucking universe, or setting
because
up
they
some.
didn't grow up with seeing those and seeing what was the alternative to the MCU formula. They grew up with the MCU formula. So for them, that's all they know is what it's supposed to be. If you were to release V for Vendetta today, it would bomb. It
No,
would bomb.
absolutely, absolutely.
You
If
couldn't
you
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 couldn't
can
release
release
V for Vendetta
Watchmen, you
today.
can release V for Vendetta, you
You
can
couldn't
release
release Tank Girl.
you,
You couldn't
you can
release
release
Tank Girl
Blade.
today.
You can release Blade today, and it would, it would tank if it's not an
Blade, I
MCU
think
movie.
would get by because Wesley Snipes did such a great job.
No, not in this market. Like,
On this
yeah,
market, well, no, it's a
like,
different type of.
half the people would be like, oh, it would completely rip apart the internet.
Right.
They'd be like, oh, it's just pretentious, dark, like, gritty stuff. Like, what happened? It's like every time, like, if it's too funny, they're like, oh, why is it got all this forced humor in it? Blah blah blah. We want to go back to like movies that don't have the humor. If they don't put the humor in it, they go, oh, well, it's boring, or it's like
I know.
no
Which
matter
is why I
what.
don't. Which is why I don't take their criticisms
No, no,
seriously.
no matter what these filmmakers do in this space, it's never good enough
I know.
for these people. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of like I didn't know this to be true, but like all of a sudden, there's a bunch. Who was the villain from Black Widow? What was the name?
Uh, Taskmaster.
Taskmaster. All of a
Or
sudden,
you,
there's
or do you
this.
mean, or do you mean the guy that was in charge of the Red
No,
Room?
Taskmaster,
Oh,
Taskmaster.
okay.
All of a sudden, there's like billions of Taskmaster fans around the world. I didn't. When did Taskmaster become like some seminal character in comic books where everyone is concerned
Oh,
about
hey, Nerdman.
authentically presenting Taskmaster in
Well,
cinema? It's like,
Nerdman. It's the same,
just
but it's the same. Okay, I know you love the Black Adam, but here's the thing: it's the same thing with Black Adam. Dwayne Johnson goes, "I'm going to be Black Adam." All of a sudden, millions of people are suddenly Black Adam fans, and it's like you didn't even know who he was a week ago, but suddenly now you're all Black Adam fanboys because The Rock is supposed to be Black Adam, and then the movie comes out, and you don't even go see it anyway.
yeah, and it was the how would I put it? Like,
It's like when even when The Rock was talking about how much he loved Black Adam, and it's like, really, I swear to God, I put out this challenge. I want to see your comic book collection, Dwayne, to show me all of your Black Adam comic books that you've read. And guess what? He didn't know anything about Black Adam. Neither did any of his fans.
yeah, well, that's why you wanted him to be a Superman villain. But look,
Yeah, they wanted him to be. How these fake comic book fans go out of their way to establish that they're fake comic book fans. They just go out of their way. It's just like, I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, again, I'm not like trying to. How would I put this? I'm not trying to like harp on um, uh, some kind of thing where everyone's fake, nobody knows about the comic books and whatever.
Oh, the
I just
majority.
I just see the evidence there that like a majority of these people don't care about the
They
comics.
don't know. They don't care.
I might be wrong. That being said, um, what I really don't like is this kind of notion that because these people didn't write the comic book movie that you envisioned in your head when you thought of these characters, that somehow they did something wrong
Yeah.
and they need to be punished
Yeah.
and they need to be hounded on Twitter. And they need, because all that does is it drives away people who are actually talented. Because no matter how, you can't get around this. If you want people who are creative to work on these movies,
They have to
so
take
that
the
so
chances. You have to
they
give
have to give them an ability to take chances, to take risks with these characters, because in the end of the day, they are fucking creative people. That's what they do. And this is why, it struck me today that I think the Wonder Woman fans are the best comic book fans that I have seen, because I know that there's not very many of them.
Right.
And
Nerdman, I'd love to keep staying, but I got to go to bed because I got to go to work tomorrow.
yeah, no, I've got to go to bed as well. Do you mind finishing it up, or do you need to go like right now?
No, I have to, finishing it up. What do you
5
want to
minutes,
finish up?
2 minutes.
Do you want to
2
finish
minutes.
up talking about? You want to finish up talking about Dungeons and Dragons, or what we're talking about now?
I was just going to finish my point, and then
Okay.
we can give our last points on Dungeons and Dragons and go. But these fans, of the Wonder Woman, essentially, I talk to them on the internet, like, or on Twitter, never arguing, never like going, oh, this version of Wonder Woman is the definitive version, or that version of Wonder. They're all on pretty much the same page. They let the Wonder Woman movie, because it stuck to the spirit of the character, they let it get away with so much of like changing the origin and tweaking things. And they were like happy with it because they were happy to see Wonder Woman on screen. It wasn't about like, oh, they have to get it exactly right according to Wonder Woman 396, blah, 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 that she would never do this, like the rest of these guys. It's like, just chill the fuck out. If this version of your character isn't the version you like, maybe one day somebody will come
Maybe the next
along
one
and
will be.
do that. And just be a fan and fucking enjoy these movies. Unless they're terrible, then you can go, oh, it's terrible, and criticize it. But like, you don't have to hate the person because they fucking did this thing. Just be critical of the movie. That's it. So that's me finished on that subject. You want to give your last thoughts on D&D? I liked it.
Now to finish off, I'll do my last. I'll finish off with the last thing on that. I stopped taking the comments of most people's seriously a long time ago because there's nothing to back up their opinions. So I'm sorry, I really don't care. It's like, oh, this director ruined this movie, or I hate. It's like I think. Why? How? Well, because I didn't like the movie. Well, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. You can't. You don't just get to arbitrarily decide this movie sucked and this movie was good because they did and they're doing the exact same thing. So you unfortunately, the thing is with you, Nerd Man, you're still giving these people legitimacy as if their opinions actually have a basis behind it.
Well, their opinions matter because they affect the box office of these movies.
I understand that.
And I want to see certain characters. And now I'm just like, don't do a Martian Manhunter movie. Please don't, because I don't know how like people are going to take it. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll ruin the franchise now.
I want there to be a Silver Surfer movie. But if there never is going to be a Silver Surfer movie, I'm fine with that because I still want to see all of the other superheroes. So I want there to be good superhero movies. I'm not the target audience. I get that. I understand I'm not the target audience. It's the general population, it's the general audience and the social media and the people that are the loudest on social media. They're the target audience. They're the ones that are buying the tickets. So they got to please them. I got to sit back and go, well, here's the next one. Hopefully this is worth watching. I understand.
I don't think you could ever be the target audience of anything. Otherwise, that franchise would collapse real quick. But
no, because
thank you for being on.
Hey, there are some superhero movies I absolutely love and adore and I support. Hey, I loved Men in Black, and it's a comic book movie.
That's the drugs again, man. I don't know what.
Hey, I love
Men in Black. I like Men in Black, but is that the best example of a fucking movie? Like, it's just a.
You think that's bad? I loved the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. That really grainy one where they were all puppets.
Yeah, it was fine.
I like that one.
It was all right.
I loved Tank Girl. I thought Tank Girl was great. I liked.
But you're just a hipster. That's what I've been telling you. Just
I am not a hipster.
The fact that you're a fucking hipster. Go watch some A4 movies with
because
with
I
Sean,
want no because I
and fucking be happy.
Because here's the thing. I've actually watched superhero movies that don't have the Marvel logo and the DC logo in front of it. I've actually watched other superhero movies. I've watched every Punisher movie. I've watched the Daredevil movie. Hated it, but I still watched it. I've
Yeah,
watched every
exactly.
Fantastic Four movie.
He's right. Well, look, this is what's going to happen, basically. And this is why all of these things are dead. AI is the next thing because everybody's going to be able to make their own movies now. And
Because you know what?
we'll finally see how good they actually are.
You want to know why AI can make movies? Because the blockbuster movies are so pathetically bad that you could have them written by an AI and the audience wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, it's so formulaic that
If your
you
movie
could program the
are so simplistic, if your movies are so simplistic and so basic that an AI can write your script, then you suck as a script writer, dude.
Okay, so good. Do we want to give our final thoughts on D&D? I recommend it. I recommend going and seeing it on the biggest screen possible. I really liked the movie. I think it had a lot of charm. It was very, it had a lot of really amazing depictions of how magic works and stuff like that you haven't seen in other films before. I don't think it's one of the greatest action movies ever made, but it's certainly a good solid 7.5 out of 10. Liked it a lot. Like the actors did very well in it. And the for me, as I said, the standout is just how creative they were with the magic in terms of the action set pieces and sequences. That's what you're paying for. The comedy's hit and miss. I mean, it hits most of the time, but it's not going to blow you away like the comedy. And it is kind of like, just bear in mind that this is MCU movie meets Dungeons and Dragons, except just the comedy's a little bit more polished, a little bit sharper, a little less, I don't know, I wouldn't say less silly, but just it's funnier because they're actually good comedy writers. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, like think MCU meets Dungeons and Dragons plus some very good special effects and actually nice to say some good practical effects, good stuff shot on set. But don't get carried away with all of these critics. Don't go in thinking you're going to see some movie that's going to change your life like the critics are kind of making out. It's just a fucking fun, good movie to go and watch with some buddies. What's your thoughts?
It's a mid fantasy movie that is a Dungeons and Dragons movie in name only. You can take out you can take if you were to take out the only way it's not a D&D movie is if you take out the names of the D&D lore and it's just a regular mid fantasy movie. It's a big budget mid fantasy movie. Calling it a Dungeons and Dragons movie is false advertising.
Okay, so we'll be talking more about this on Sunday when everybody's watched it, and we'll have a dedicated stream to that. This was just a stream where me and
it was only supposed to be an hour, but I have to go to bed. Damn it!
Yeah, me and Jaded were just talking, and we decided, like, hey, we might as well talk online about this. So we'll talk about it again. I'll see you guys on Sunday. And other than that, we're out of here. We've got jobs and lives. So we love you 3000 and peace.